It is a fool's errand to try to say that these nuts who do these things are any team. Jimmy's wrong, I think, to put him in one team.
Watch as Bill Maher doesn't hold back, slamming Jimmy Kimmel over his shocking comments about Charlie Kirk's shooter.
Jimmy, look, I don't think what he said was exactly right. I don't. We don't agree on that. He didn't lose his job for it. He said the MAGA crowd was trying to characterize the assassin as anything but one of them because the 22-year-old kid in jail, his family was MAGA. As if a 22-year-old with a trans girlfriend never rebelled against their family. I mean, but was he on the left? I don't know that either. And I hate to do this. I'm tipping the end of the show, which I work so hard on to keep a secret from the rest of the show. But it's too relevant. What I'm talking about at the end, I'm going to have to say now, which is that it is a fool's errand to try to say that these nuts who do these things are any team. Jimmy's wrong, I think, to put him in one team.
In the aftermath of Jimmy Kimmel's latest controversy, the late-night host has become the focal point of intense scrutiny. His mischaracterization of Charlie Kirk's assassin as a MAGA supporter sparked a storm of criticism, illuminating the consequences that follow when a public figure combines ideological bias with misrepresentation. While Kimmel's platform has long blended humor, satire, and commentary, this incident exemplifies a breakdown in judgment that has led to audience outrage, advertiser revolt, and institutional sanction. The controversy invites a detailed examination of Kimmel's conduct through the lens of professional accountability, audience engagement, and ethical responsibility. The first major critique comes from Piers Morgan, whose commentary on X lays bare the operational and reputational fallout of Kimmel's remarks. Morgan writes, "Jimmy Kimmel lied about Charlie Kirk's assassin being MAGA. This caused understandable outrage all over America, prompted TV station owners to say they wouldn't air him, and he's now been suspended by his employers. Why is he being heralded as some kind of free speech martyr?" First, he directly identifies Kimmel's statement as a deliberate misrepresentation, asserting that it constitutes a falsehood rather than a misstep in phrasing. By framing the statement as a lie, Morgan highlights the ethical dimension of Kimmel's error, emphasizing that accuracy is a fundamental expectation for media figures, particularly when discussing criminal acts that are highly visible to the public. Second, Morgan situates the controversy within an operational context. The refusal of television station owners to continue airing Kimmel's show reflects tangible institutional consequences that arise from misrepresentation and public backlash. It underscores the fact that content creators are accountable not only to audiences, but to the networks and advertisers that support their platforms. Third, Morgan's rhetorical question regarding Kimmel being hailed as a free speech martyr highlights a critical distinction. The sanctions imposed on Kimmel are not punitive measures targeting expression, but are direct outcomes of professional misjudgment and operational risk management. Analyzing Morgan's observations reveals a larger pattern in Kimmel's career trajectory. The mischaracterization of the assassin as politically aligned is emblematic of a broader tendency to engage in ideologically charged commentary, often at the expense of accuracy and nuance. Morgan's critique implicitly warns of the consequences that follow when comedic platforms abandon factual responsibility in favor of partisan messaging. The institutional and audience responses, network suspension, station refusals, and social media backlash serve as a corrective mechanism, reinforcing the principle that public figures must navigate the delicate balance between satire, commentary, and factual integrity. Following Morgan's critique, Donald Trump Jr. adds another layer to the analysis, connecting Kimmel's content strategy with the measurable decline in professional performance. On X, Trump Jr. states, "This is a great point. Also, his ratings were terrible by any objective metric and going lower because he spent the last few years being a radical activist attacking half the nation and their values on a daily basis. Maybe that's why Disney didn't want him on the air anymore." Trump Jr.'s observations integrate both operational and ideological dimensions. He underscores the decline in ratings as a direct consequence of Kimmel's partisan focus, suggesting that alienating a substantial portion of the audience inevitably impacts viewership. By framing Kimmel as a radical activist targeting a large segment of the nation, Trump Jr. emphasizes the consequences of sustained ideological aggression on audience loyalty and commercial viability. Moreover, his reference to Disney's decision to suspend the show contextualizes the backlash as a rational institutional response rather than arbitrary censorship. Network executives, responsible for both content quality and operational success, acted in alignment with observable audience disengagement and declining ratings, demonstrating the predictable outcomes of Kimmel's editorial choices. Trump Jr. also highlights the broader cultural implications of Kimmel's conduct. The the sustained attacks on a portion of the public, coupled with a misrepresentation of a criminal actor's political identity, exemplify a pattern of content that prioritizes ideological signaling over accurate, responsible commentary. This pattern has operational consequences: declining ratings, diminishing advertiser confidence, and increased scrutiny from network stakeholders. Trump Jr. Its critique is therefore not merely a personal or partisan observation. It is a professional assessment of Kimmel's failure to align content strategy with audience expectations and institutional realities. Adding further depth to the critique, Vice President of the United States JD Vance provides an incisive evaluation that bridges operational, cultural, and audience-focused analysis. On X, Vance notes, "Jimmy Kimmel wasn't funny, his ratings were in the toilet, and his advertisers were revolting. Also, the belly aching from the left over free speech after the Biden years fools precisely no one. There's a point where I'd watch his show nearly every night. He's a genuinely talented guy, but like so much good and funny in the world, the woke thing destroyed it." Vance's remarks illuminate multiple dimensions of Kimmel's decline. From an operational standpoint, he draws attention to declining ratings and advertiser dissatisfaction, highlighting the tangible commercial consequences of content strategy misalignment. Audience engagement, measured both through viewership and advertiser confidence, serves as a quantifiable indicator of Kimmel's professional performance. From a cultural perspective, Vance critiques the invocation of free speech as a defense mechanism, positioning it as inadequate to counterbalance the consequences arising from Kimmel's misrepresentation and ideological focus. Even acknowledging Kimmel's talent, Vance underscores how external cultural and ideological pressures have undermined the host's ability to connect effectively with his audience, illustrating the intersection of skill, cultural context, and content strategy in determining professional outcomes. Analyzing Vance's insights reveals a clear narrative of cause and effect. The combination of misrepresentation, partisan messaging, and declining audience alignment has precipitated the deterioration of Kimmel's show. His prior skill and comedic ability, while notable, cannot compensate for a strategy that alienates audiences and provokes advertiser backlash. Vance's assessment situates Kimmel's professional decline within a broader systemic framework, demonstrating that media figures must balance creative skill, factual accuracy, and audience engagement to sustain success. Failure to do so, as evidenced in Kimmel's trajectory, leads to predictable operational consequences. Taken together, the commentary from Morgan, Trump Jr., and Vance forms a coherent critique of Jimmy Kimmel's professional conduct. Each commentator highlights different facets of the issue, yet their observations converge on common themes: representation, audience alienation, declining operational metrics, and institutional accountability. Morgan emphasizes ethical and operational responsibility. Trump Jr. contextualizes audience engagement and ideological focus. Vance highlights operational, cultural, and audience-related consequences. The integrated analysis demonstrates that Kimmel's professional jeopardy is multidimensional, arising from a combination of factual inaccuracy, ideological overreach, and misalignment with audience expectations. A closer examination of these critiques underscores the broader implications for public figures in high-visibility media roles. The misrepresentation of a criminal actor's political affiliation is not merely a rhetorical error, it constitutes a failure of ethical and professional responsibility with direct consequences for institutional and public trust. Networks, advertisers, and audiences all respond to content with measurable impact, and repeated failures in judgment inevitably trigger corrective action. Kimmel's suspension, declining ratings, and advertiser dissatisfaction exemplify these consequences, reflecting a structural framework of accountability that is both predictable and justified. Moreover, the pattern of partisan commentary, highlighted by Trump Jr., illustrates the operational hazards of alienating a significant portion of the audience. Sustained attacks on certain ideological groups, when combined with factual misrepresentation, generate cumulative effects that compromise viewership, advertiser confidence, and network credibility. This relationship between content strategy and operational outcome is central to understanding the professional ramifications of Kimmel's conduct. Public figures with expansive reach are accountable not only for their creative output, but also for its reception and impact, a principle that Kimmel's trajectory exemplifies. Vance's insights add a cultural lens to this operational and ethical critique. Even for a host of proven talent, cultural misalignment, particularly when content is heavily influenced by progressive messaging, can undermine audience connection and reduce the efficacy of humor or commentary. Ratings and advertiser engagement become objective measures of this misalignment, revealing the structural risks of prioritizing ideological expression over audience engagement. The intersection of skill, cultural awareness, and factual accuracy is critical for maintaining credibility in media platforms, and Kimmel's failure to navigate these dimensions has produced predictable and far-reaching consequences.
Integrating all three perspectives, the evidence points to a consistent conclusion. Jimmy Kimmel's actions, both in the specific case of the Charlie Kirk assassin and in his broader editorial pattern, have produced measurable professional, operational, and reputational fallout. Each X post reinforces this narrative, providing a distinct angle on the same central phenomenon. Kimmel's misjudgment has consequences that extend from audience disengagement to network sanctions. Public criticism, declining ratings, advertiser revolt, and institutional suspension are not coincidental or politically motivated. They are the direct result of repeated lapses in judgment, ideological overreach, and factual misrepresentation. The controversy serves as a case study for the modern media landscape, illustrating that high-visibility figures operate under constraints defined by audience expectations, advertiser interests, and institutional oversight. Ethical responsibility, operational alignment, and accurate commentary are not optional, they are essential for professional sustainability. Kimmel's trajectory demonstrates the consequences of failing to balance these elements. Talent alone cannot shield against the fallout from misrepresentation, alienated audiences, and declining institutional support. In conclusion, the combined assessments from Piers Morgan, Donald Trump Jr., Vice President JD Vance present a comprehensive critique of Jimmy Kimmel's professional conduct. Misrepresentation of the assassin's political affiliation, sustained partisan attacks, declining ratings, advertiser dissatisfaction, and network suspension form a pattern of failures with tangible consequences. The ethical, operational, and cultural dimensions of these failures are clear. Public figures in high-profile media roles are accountable for both their statements and their strategic choices, and Kimmel's inability to uphold these responsibilities has precipitated the predictable outcomes observed. His trajectory offers a cautionary lesson in professional accountability, illustrating that even talent and past success cannot compensate for misjudgment, misrepresentation, and audience alienation.